Hello, this is Alex from cables.gl. I'd like to show you Castray and how you can use it, for example, to make something like a 3D menu or some sort of 3D navigation and interaction with your 3D scene. And let's take a look at this example that I've already pre-built. And we have an orange and a blue cube with Lambert materials and transforms for each cube, and also a point light to make the scene a little bit brighter, and a camera to just zoom out the view a bit because these cubes are at width, length, height, unit 1. So, all right, so how do I interact with this scene? How do I get information into cables to use to then make them bigger, for example? So we need to use this operator called Castray, and we'll search for it and place it down on our patch field and take a look at this relatively big operator. But what you'll notice is the inputs, the input ports, there's actually only 4 of them. But the outputs, or the information that we can get out of this operator, there's quite a lot of fields. And we'll use the basic ones to do what I need, which is mouse over the cubes and make them bigger. Okay, so how do we set it up? Castray, if you look above where its title is, you'll see that it's actually called Ops Physics Castray. And what it needs is the physics world. So it's another operator that we'll just place down in our scene called world. Okay, so we have this world operator, and we're not really going to get into all the parameters for it because we actually don't need them, right? So we just need the world for the Castray to work. And what needs to be done is we place the world. I think it's like pretty much anywhere in the scene usually works, as long as all the objects that you want to interact with in kind of the physics world are below it. And Castray is one of those things, so we need to place it below our world, and now everything should be good. But the thing is, our cubes, they're not physics cubes, so we need to add another kind of cage, like a physics cage for these cubes below it as well. So let's look for physics cube. Okay, here's one. And you'll see immediately that we have this outline around our blue cube. And one thing I want to mention is the reason that they line up so well is because both the cube and the physics cube have the same dimensions. So that is something you need to consider when you're making a menu, for example, with rectangles or something smaller or not uniform and not at the size of 1, right? With the defaults here. Then you need to make sure that your shape, for example, this blue cube, I'm changing the width of it right now, it has to match with the cage, because then the user will get what they expect, which is mousing over your different size shape and getting the interaction that they seek. So we'll copy over the physics cube under this orange cube, and now we have our world pretty much set up. And what do we do next? So Castray has inputs that are very important for us to kind of shoot this laser out of our camera at a specific direction to then see, did we intersect with a 3D mesh or not, with one of these physics cubes or not? So how do we set it up? What I want to do is use a mouse over on my canvas here to tell Castray that, yeah, I'm over the orange cube. Okay, so we will need a mouse operator. Let's place it down, and we'll use the X out port and the Y out port for the position. As you see, if I look over the mouse operator and I move around my canvas, we have this XY coordinates, right? So here I'm at around 0, 0, and here I'm at the maximum of my canvas size. So if I click on my preview window, I'll see my size 640 by 360. So it's 640 width and 360 height. And you'll see that the mouse, conforms to those to those dimensions. However, cast ray, it wants normalized coordinates. So we will need to click on normalize in the mouse operator, and then we're ready to plug them in. Okay, so let's click on cast ray and look over at all of these output parameters. Right now, everything is false, pretty much 0, 0 everywhere because our mouse is not over the canvas. And if we start placing it over, we'll immediately get some interaction. So hopefully at this point, you're like, oh, okay, I know how to use this and how to make the orange cube a button. But if you want, follow along, we'll continue with this. So if you see over here, there's this has hit um, output. And when I mouse over my orange or blue cube, you'll see that the has hit goes from false to true. Nice. Okay, that's cool. Um, but this also makes me think that it doesn't really, the cast ray doesn't really care at this point, which of these cubes that I've hit, the orange one or the blue one. It just says, yeah, okay, you hit a physics object somewhere in your world. That's cool, but how do we set that up? And what we need to do is for these physics cube objects, which I'll select here, we have to set a name. So this one is our blue one, I think. Yeah, that's our blue one. So I just disconnected it to check um, which cube it was. So it's the blue one. So we'll call it blue over in this physics cube parameter here for name. Okay. And then when we go back to our cast ray and select it, and we'll scroll down to name, we'll have nothing here on the orange one. And then when we go over the blue one, it's like, oh, yeah, it's the blue one because you named it. Great. So we can use this to do a kind of if-then statement to change the size of this cube. So what I'm going to do is use this output port for the name, and I'm going to find a string operator called string equals. Okay, and then we have to set up the name, which would be blue, right? That's our blue cube that we need to check for. So right now it's false. We're over the orange cube, it's also false. And now it's true. So now we have this Boolean that says, true. You hit the blue cube. Amazing. Okay, so we'll use this Boolean to do a Boolean animation, which is bool anim operator. Very simple operator, very cool. It just needs a true false statement to go from whatever number we set in the parameter field. So if I hook this up, it's now ready to animate. And we'll do this value. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to use this value that will change when I mouse over the blue cube. See, in this output for the bool anim, it animates once I mouse over the blue cube. What I'm going to do actually is pump this into a variable. So var set number. Okay. And now we'll create a new variable called blue scale. Okay. So now we're setting this variable called blue scale. And what I'm going to do is hook up this blue scale variable to my blue shape and also my kind of physics cage. So blue scale, we'll select it here. And then in physics cube, we'll also assign the same variable to the size of the cage. Okay. And then we'll go to bool anim. And for false, I'll say use the number 1. And then for true, when when our cursor is over the blue cube, we'll do like 1.5. Okay. So let's see if this works. So over the orange one, nothing. And over the blue one, okay, it gets bigger. So we did it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to play around with this and maybe add like a different easing and show you one really cool thing with cast ray. All right, so pretty static thing, the cubes, right? And what I'm gonna do is add an orbit camera. I'm gonna add it maybe here, orbit controls. So now when I orbit, we're really getting that 3D menu feel, right? But the cool thing is, um, if I mouse over the blue one, the orange one is hidden behind the blue cube. So we can do kind of um, stacking of our 3D meshes, and the cast rail will understand that one thing is in front of the other. So as it shoots its laser out of the camera view, it will know that, oh, okay, yeah, the orange cube is behind the blue one. So we don't need to click on that one. We're dealing with the blue one, right? So I think it creates kind of interesting um, ways of creating cool menus or something like that, right? The user gets what they expected. So I think that's pretty much it. And maybe we'll just take a look at the mass of parameters here. And I recommend you check out the documentation for this operator and, of course, the example file. But the type of things you'll be able to do is, for example, get the location of the mesh that you've moused over or interacted with, where the laser intersected. It will know, oh, okay, the shape is in this particular spot in your scene. Or, for example, you'll know, did you hit the front of the cube or the back of the cube? You can also do some interesting ways of getting a specific position on the shape with the cast ray. So then, for example, you could maybe draw on the cube or something like that. So I guess that's about it. And hopefully you try out cast ray. It's super awesome. Thank you. Bye.